Welcome back to the Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast. I'm Joe Noga, joined by Paul Hoynes. Hoynesy, good weekend for the Guardians as they get back to it after the All-Star break. They take 2 out of 3 on this homestand from the Athletics. The A's came in and the Guardians won on Friday, won on Sunday. I had a little stumble on Saturday, but really got good, solid starting pitching all 3 games, if you think about it, particularly from Slade Cecconi and Gavin Williams. But let's talk about Slade Cecconi first. Nearly throwing the first complete game of the season, the first 9-inning complete game of the season for the Guardians on Friday. He went into the ninth at around 90 pitches. I just couldn't successfully navigate that ninth.
Yeah, Joe, he was at 90 pitches going into the ninth. They had a comfortable lead, and, Vogt said to let him go. He thought, that he was in command, but, that Oakland team, Joe, you can say what you want about them, but they might not have a home, but they can hit. And with Brent Rooker and Nick, those guys are dangerous. And even the catcher, Langoliers, is he can put the bat on the ball. They can put some runs up, and that's what they did in the ninth inning, and really kind of ruined Cecconi's line. He ends up giving up 6 earned runs on 8 hits and 8 in the third innings. For 8 innings, he was dominant.
Yeah, you kind of forget, and he was going out there and really having quick innings, really being efficient, which was what they've sort of been looking for from him so far this season. And his last couple of starts, he's really been giving them the ability to go deep into games, and you like seeing this out of your starters. Cecconi, pretty confident guy. After the game, he was really pleased with his performance, and you can't blame him.
Yeah, when you hit the nail on the head when you said efficiency, Joe. A lot of quick outs, a lot of ground ball outs. He didn't have his first strikeout till the 7th inning. So that tells you what kind of early outs he was getting. I don't think we've seen the best of this guy, Joe. I think he's just going to he's had 11 starts with Cleveland, and he's been progressively, showing improvement in all signs. He said, he got to the previous start, he got through 8 innings, after, kind of running into trouble in the 8th inning. His last time on Friday night, he gets to the 9th inning. Had some problems, so we'll have to see if he can correct that and get a complete game, because he said that's been his goal, Joe. It just tells you how much the game has changed. He goes, this guy dreams of getting complete games. I mean, Bob Feller, if he didn't get a complete game, it was a disappointment.
Well, and really, if you looked at his line, if you looked at the number of pitches he had thrown per inning, and just the way he was navigating the innings and not getting a strikeout, 2 strikeouts I think total for the entire night.
Yeah.
It was a throwback sort of feel to that outing. Pitch to contact, let him put the ball in play, and you get as deep as you can in a game. I really did feel like a sort of a throwback outing for Slade Cecconi on Friday night. And Logan Allen wasn't all that terrible in the loss on Saturday. He was again able to get into the 6th inning. The starting rotation really is doing the job that you want to see out of a starting rotation in terms of trying to preserve this bullpen a little bit.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job, Joe. It started, on this right after the 10. Well, it's been going on for about a month and a half. They've been getting solid starts. Especially in this streak where they've won 8 of their last 10, Logan Allen did a nice job. He only gave up 3 runs and 5 in the third innings, 8 hits, one walk, 4 Ks. And like you said, it was the 8th time he's gotten into the 6th inning, 8th consecutive start where he's gotten into the 8th inning. So he's doing his job. He just got burned a little bit in that 1 inning in the 4th where the A's put together 4 or 5 straight hits, and the first 3 were doubles, which led to a big inning and kind of put him on his heels a little bit.
Yeah, the tough thing for Logan Allen is he's got to be pitching with in the back of his mind that when guys like Shane Bieber are ready to go and ready to come up, his spot might be the one that's sort of exposed in the rotation. Joey Cantillo's throwing pretty well. He's not giving them the length yet that they're expecting, but he can get there. We've seen that out of him. So you never know who's going to be the guy to go when Shane Bieber is ready to rejoin the rotation. We'll talk about his situation here in a little bit, but that's got to be weighing on Logan Allen at some point. That every time he goes out there, he's got to make an impression.
Yeah, I think it's probably like Allen and Cantillo. These guys aren't silly. I mean, aren't stupid. They know what's coming. They know Bieber's on his way. So And they're pitching like it, Joe. They're pitching, like they want to keep their jobs, and that's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way competition is supposed to work.
So we get into Sunday, and Gavin Williams says, "Well, Slade Ciccone, you're trying to go for a complete game here. Hold my beer. I'm going to go out there and basically just shove for 7 innings of just really really well pitched baseball, using a complete 5 pitch mix, using 2-3 different kinds of fastballs. He's getting quick outs, he's getting efficient outs, just like Ciccone did. That was as good as we've seen Gavin Williams there on Sunday, just the way he was able to keep things under complete control.
Yeah, just a great curveball, Joe. I thought really, really effective. And when he's effective, when he gets in trouble, to me, it's when he only has his fastball, or the cutter and the fastball, and that's all he's throwing. But like you said, he had every pitch working yesterday, and really, really did a great job against a really difficult lineup to pitch to. I mean, we saw what they did on Saturday night, the A's, and they still hits, they still put up some extra base hits, but he tamed the A's. He did a nice job against them.
Any concern at all? Cade Smith did give up some contact there in his inning, gave up a run, and just came in the 8th inning. What have we seen out of Cade Smith? Are we at all worried about him?
I think that back is still lingering. They can say what they want, but the back spasms have to be a bit of a concern. They shut him down for 3 or 4 days. He came back, and he really, he hasn't been that dominant guy since. But they had a big lead yesterday, so you can, you kind of, move on and on. But we'll have to, keep a close eye on Cade, see how the next 3 or 4 outings go. The guy I'm concerned about, Joe, is Hunter Gaddis. We haven't seen him since the first game of that doubleheader just before the break against the White Sox, when he had the cramp in his hand. He hasn't pitched since, so that's a name we'll have to check out. But they've been very, very coy about his condition.
Yeah, and not exactly the same kind of dominant season that Hunter Gaddis had last year. But again, the bar was set so high with so many of these relievers that you really didn't expect him to come back and be as dominant as he was last year. Guardians won 8 of their last 10 games. They're still 11 games back in the division, 4.5 games out of the third wild card spot, 4 teams ahead of them in the third wild card chase. So, with the Orioles coming in starting tonight, this is another opportunity here. 4 games against a team like the Orioles that's been struggling all year. But again, another team that can put runs on the board. So you have to be very careful. What's the outlook for this series and where they are in terms of the standings?
That's really an important series. I think it'll go along. It's going to have some influence on what the front office does. We're talking to Mike Chernoff over the weekend. He says the next 2 weeks are critical as to whether the Guardians are going to be buyers or sellers, or whether they'll try to do a little of both. Big series against the Orioles. The Orioles are a little different team since the Guardians last played them in April. They fired the manager, so we'll see. But, like you said, Joe, that's another good offensive team. So the Guardians are going to have to, get good pitching, and they're going to have to score to keep pace with them. And, they've been doing a good job of that during this, this 10-game stretch. They've scored, I think, 4 more runs in the 9 of the last 10 games. So, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign that the runs are coming across the plate. It's a good sign that they're having quality at bats. One of the reasons for that might be the presence of Junior Betances. Finally getting the call up to the big leagues after, 27 years in the
27
minors?
years, yeah.
Junior Betances, it was the hitting coach down in AAA in Columbus, or part of the hitting coach staff down there in Columbus. And with the departure of Jason Esposito to Vanderbilt, that left open the door for Betances to get the call. And this is a guy who he's very comfortable with a lot of the guys on this roster right now. Brian Rocchio, we asked him about having Junior Betances up, and Rocchio just smiled, shook his head, and he said, "That's my guy." You could tell that there's a really good comfort level there. And even with veterans like Jose Ramirez, Junior Betances was the guy who Jose Ramirez chose to throw to him in the home run derby the first time he participated back in what, 2023. So there are connections all over the place, and this has got to be great for Junior to be up and be a part of the big league staff.
Yeah, when we talked to him after he got called up over the weekend, he lives in New Jersey, and the All-Star break fell on the same day as for the AAA Columbus as it did for Cleveland. So he had driven home, and when he got the call after getting home like at 4 o'clock, on that Monday, he got a call from Cleveland, said, hey, we're gonna bring you up to the big leagues. We want you to be part of the coaching staff. And he goes, but here, take the next 3 days off. And Junior said, hey, if you need me, I've been waiting 27 years for this call. If you need me right now, I'm getting back in the car and driving right back to Cleveland. So he was excited about it.
He had to drive the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The poor guy. You get the call up to the big leagues, and your first thing you have to do is drive the Pennsylvania Turnpike all the way home back up here to Cleveland. That is a punishment that I wouldn't wish on anybody. Having done so many times, it always seems to rain when you ride the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Yeah, the guys that he's worked with and at the levels that he's worked with them at, I guess, is sort of one of the reasons why they chose Grant Fink, because Fink's in sort of the same boat in terms of the relationships that he has with the young players on the staff.
Yeah, and Betances, really can relate to the Latin American players. He ran the Dominican Academy, Cleveland's Dominican Academy, for a few years. He was head of the Dominican operations down there, so he knows all these guys. He worked out. He was coaching Angel Martinez over the winter last year at the academy, so he's got a really good relationship with, especially the Latin American players. And I'm sure every player that's come up through the system, he's talked to. So, this is a good fit. We'll have to see if it produces results, but it's well deserved for Betances.
For first 3 games, they've scored quite a few runs, so it's got to help there. Jonathan Rodriguez, one of the pupils, I guess, of Junior Betances in the minor leagues and in the system. Jonathan Rodriguez had a rough weekend in terms of defense out in right field. Probably not as rough as Tyler Soderstrom, the left fielder for the Athletics. This is a guy who was a catcher and a first baseman, and now he's out there trying to sort of hold things down in left field for them. And you could tell that he looked like a fish out of water right now. If I made you choose right now, who would you choose to put out in the outfield if you're making up a lineup, Jonathan Rodriguez or Tyler Soderstrom?
I put you out there, Joe.
Well, I don't know, man. Both knees are gone, so it would be a pretty rough.
No, I'd have to put Rodriguez out there. I'd put Rodriguez. At least that's his normal position. But man, in that 9th inning Saturday night, he looked like he was on ice skates out there.
Yeah, and Soderstrom sort of misplaying a couple of balls we saw over the weekend. David Fry's bases clearing double sort of skips away from him, and he's on his hands and knees sort of crawling after the ball. But I go back to Friday night. Soderstrom catches a fly ball in the outfield and starts jogging off the field, thinking it was the 3rd out of the inning, and Jose Ramirez takes advantage.
Yeah, I haven't seen that since Alex Cole did it for the Guardians when he was playing center field at Old Cleveland Stadium. He thought there were 3 outs against Kansas City, and the Kansas City runner scored from second base. So Mike Hargrove was not pleased after that play.
That is a lonely feeling coming all the way back into the dugout at the end of that inning, and I'm sure somebody said he's lucky he didn't flip the ball into the stands. Otherwise, the run scores automatically. It's just pretty tough. All right, let's get into some injury news. Obviously, Stephen Kwan missing the entire 3-game series against the Athletics. His hometown team from when he was growing up, and the team that he sort of always wanted to play for. Kwan had an injection after Wednesday's. He had an injection Wednesday after playing in the All-Star game. What did you learn when you talked to him about sort of the position of the team and why he played in that game and then got the injection knowing he'd have to miss a few days?
Yeah, Joe, I think, they gave him permission to go to Atlanta and play in the All-Star game. They felt he'd earned that, and Kwan wanted to go. I mean, he wanted to play against the best players in the world. He wanted to, be in that locker room again for the 2nd straight year. He, assured the Guardians that he wouldn't take any unnecessary risks. He didn't take BP. He didn't shag. He tried everything he could to, kind of nurse that wrist through the All-Star game. I think he had 2 at-bats. I mean, this thing has been hurting him since May 26th, Joe. I don't think 2 at-bats were going to make it any worse. So, this is something they've managed. And, he had a memorable All-Star game. He drove in the tying run, stole a base. He played a big part in that game. And, the unfortunate thing was the timing. The next day he gets the shot, in the wrist to ease the pain and the swelling, and he doesn't play over the weekend. But it doesn't really hurt him that much. Martinez had a great series in the leadoff spot, but still, it sounds like at least from what I read yesterday, it sounds like he might be able to back in the lineup tonight against the Orioles, right, Joe?
Yeah, that's what Stephen Vogt told us after the game, was to expect that Kwan would be in the lineup on Monday night. He said he came in, on Sunday morning, said things were feeling great, went out and participated in all the activities that he needed to participate in. So I think that's a big positive step, and I would expect to see him in there. It's funny you bring up Angel Martinez and hitting in that leadoff spot. Stephen Vogt seems very comfortable, especially with Martinez swinging from the right-hand side of the and putting him in that leadoff spot. And he's been hot. He did have the solo home run in the 8th inning, sort of when the game was already out of reach yesterday. And Vogt pointed to, the double early, the leadoff double early was from the right side of the plate. And then he had 2 more hits from the left side of the plate, including the home run and the RBI single. It's really, I think 11 of Martinez's last 14 hits since July 6th have gone for extra bases. He's really putting in the work from the left-hand side of the plate to sort of make things more of a threat there. I just think, like you said, he had 6 hits and 14 at-bats during that 3-game series. So Martinez said he's comfortable up there. He doesn't mind it. There's not a lot of pressure on him batting in the leadoff spot, and it's something we could see a little more of if and when Stephen Kwan isn't available to hit up there.
Yeah, he's really making his presence felt, Joe. He's not a rookie, but but he's really, this is his second year, and you think of him as a rookie, but he's not. And he's really a smart ball player, I think, and he's getting better each time, and he's improving. From both sides of the plate. You like him in center field. You like him, at second base or third base. Valuable guy.
Yeah. And athletic wherever he goes, runs real well. So a big plus. We heard from Chris Antonetti prior to yesterday's game that number 1 draft pick, the 27th overall selection, Jace Laviolette, the outfielder from Texas A&M, the guy who was tough as nails, broke his hand in the SEC tournament when he was hit by a pitch. Had surgery that night and played the next day. And while toughness is a great quality, it doesn't necessarily bode well for you continuing your season after you get drafted. Laviolette, unlikely to play at a minor league affiliate. So like Travis Bazzana last year, wound up playing through the end of the season for Lake County and leading them to a division championship there. Jace Laviolette will not make an appearance at a minor league affiliate, likely, according to Antonetti. He had a follow-up procedure after the end of his college season, and they're still sort of determining what's going to happen in terms of his rehab. He should be reporting to the Arizona facility out in Goodyear to do physicals and sign contracts and things like that sometime this week, and they'll have a better idea of what a timeline is for him to get on the field. But if this kid is able to do what he did in college at Texas A&M, then he's going to be worth the wait.
Yeah, I got to meet this guy, Joe. But he breaks his hand, and they say rub a little dirt on it and come back tomorrow. That's a ball player right there. So we're gonna have to just check this guy out.
Yeah, well, introduce yourself to Lord Tubbington, which is his nickname, and make sure that you shake his right hand and not his left hand, because that's the one that's not broken. So yeah, it's exciting because not only does he come with the big frame and the big numbers, but he's got a big personality, and that's going to be fun to sort of get to know Jace Laviolette, a guy that we wish that we were able to get to know, Chase DeLauder, a little bit more. Our daily Chase DeLauder update. He's going to be seen by hand specialist Dr. Thomas Graham down in Dayton, likely on Tuesday, according to Chris Antonetti. Just another frustrating sort of setback for DeLauder, who, now that they say he's ready to come up and contribute at the major league level, once again, an injury is holding him back.
Yeah, he just can't stay in the lineup, Joe. He's been trying to play. He had tried to play with this wrist injury for 2 weeks before the All-Star break, but the last two games before the break they had to shut him down. Then he travels to Iowa with the Clippers. Can't play in that series because of the wrist. Now they're getting him examined. So we'll keep your fingers crossed, 'cause this guy deserves a good break. He needs some good news here. Hopefully, it's just a shutdown for a week, or a 7 day stretch on the AAA to get that whatever's going on in there out of there, and hopefully he's back on the field before maybe around the 1st of August. So but he needs some good news.
Yeah, I have a feeling, maybe there's an injection like Juan got in his future, and a couple of down days, and then maybe if he responds, you can reset the timer and get him back up here, or get him up here. Speaking of getting back up here, Shane Bieber will start at a minor league affiliate here in Ohio, likely Lake County on Tuesday. I don't think any of the affiliates have any games on tonight on Monday. So Bieber's next start, probably Lake County tomorrow. If not, then possibly Columbus. But I think they had said that they wanted to keep him sort of closer. Trevor Stephan had his rehab window sort of extended. They can do that with guys who have Tommy John surgery. They can do 10-day extensions. So he's breached the end of his 30-day rehab window, where they sort of have to make a decision on him. They applied for an extension, and they can keep doing that in 10-day increments as long as all the parties agree, the Players Association, the team, and the league. So keep an eye on Trevor Stephan. He's close, but he's not as close as maybe we thought he was.
Yeah, I feel bad for Trevor. I mean, this is like Vogt says, everybody's elbow is different. Everybody comes back from Tommy John at their own pace. You can't rush that.
Yeah. Speaking of Vogt, did you get one of those Vogt bobbleheads on Saturday? What'd you?
I did. It was I liked it. Yeah, I'm keeping it in the box. I've been.
Well, that's good. It's going to lose all of its value if you pull it out, Lindsay. You don't want to do that. All right, that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast. Lindsay, we'll welcome the Orioles in tonight and report back about the series opener tomorrow.
Good deal.